All right, we're back for the top 8 of the Modern 5K. Will Kruger joining us for the rest of the evening. Welcome. How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm doing great, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, dude. I had a break today for the first time doing one of these events, and I'll tell you what, that's not too bad.
Very
Not
nice.
too
Very
bad
nice.
at all. All right, so we got a top 8 bracket for all of you that are still here watching to take us through the end. We've got number 1 seed, as we speculated when he won in round 9, Sam Boileau versus Jesse Eddington. There are a lot of Rhinos decks in the top 8, as you can
Whew.
see.
I love to see
We've got
that. I'm a rhinoceros enjoyer myself.
Okay, we've got Tyler Novak versus Travis Dahl. We've got Will Kowalczyk versus Daryl Patino, and I can tell you that match ended already because Daryl Patino conceded and left. So
Very
Will
nice.
Kowalczyk advances to the semifinals.
Must be nice.
And then and then the match we're gonna watch: Steven Dykman versus Harrison Kanfer. We've seen Harrison play for color control. We have not seen Steven Dykman play today, and we're gonna go ahead and bring up his deck list so you can take a look at it. We're gonna look at both of them, but here's Steven Dykman's mono red prowess, which is identifiable because of 2 copies of Underworld Breach, which is outside the norm, but maybe not a total rarity. As Will was saying, he's actually played against this deck before.
Yeah, I played against Max McVitie in an event on Magic Online, and he kind of crushed me with this. I thought I had the game all rolled up, but I was actually playing Rhinos, and I thought I had the game all rolled up. I was like, he's got 1 card. What can it possibly be? I have the board, and then he had a huge graveyard, but I wasn't even considering that he could just randomly draw 5 cards and make 2 creatures, because it's especially potent with Dragon Rage Channeler and free spells like Mishra's Bauble, and Lava Dart also puts a thing back in the graveyard, and it's just there's definitely positions where it's just you can just get your opponent out of nowhere, especially if you found your 1 copy of Mutagenic Growth at some point during the game. That's just like 10 damage out of nowhere with a Dragon Rage in play.
Yeah.
They just die. So
All
that's
right.
a really sweet inclusion. Mono red, really smart, and Dykman is a really smart player, so I'm unsurprised to see him winning with a new-ish strategy.
Yeah. And then his opponent, Harrison Kanfer, 4 color. We'll take a look at that real quick, and then we'll get down to the table. And so we've seen a variety of 4 color decks, and Harrison's stood out for obvious reasons by having main deck copies of Deputy of Detention and Emrakul, the Promised End. Some of these versions have Emrakul in the sideboard. Harrison just bypassed that and just ran the main deck.
Wow, that's the Deputy Detention is something that stands out as a choice that's really paying off. I think there were 2 Rhinos decks in the top 8, and I'm sure that's one of the main things that's on your mind when you decide to include a card like Deputy Detention, because even if you kill the Rhinos, as long as they don't kill a Deputy with a trigger on the stack, then they don't get the Rhinos back at all. So it's just a really nice value play, and it's a one of that I'm sure you're going to search for a lot with your 3 copies of Eladamri's Call.
Okay, so if the players are ready, let's go ahead and get down to the table. If they're not, we can. Okay, here we go. So Harrison Kanfer versus Steven Dykman. Dykman, by virtue of being the 3 seed, will have choice there, presumably on the play. And we'll get things...
One would assume that Dykman would take the play. I hear that's pretty good in Modern and really just Magic these days. All right. Wow, so no 1-mana creature from Dykman is huge, because this deck really wants to lead on Dragon Rage Channeler or Swiftspear or some such. So
yeah, something like neighborhood of, I believe there's maybe 10 1-drops, because I do believe there were only 2 copies of Soulscar Mage maybe in Dykman's deck, but certainly missing a 1-drop. Maybe
well,
even more.
He has 4 Ragavans too, so he has 14. So no Ragavan, no Soulscar, Swiftspear, Dragon Rage, nothing.
Okay, so even more significant, like we talked about burn decks really wanting to have a 1-drop. It's even more important for the Prowess deck.
It's critical, yeah.
So if Steven kept a 7-card hand without a 1-drop here in this matchup, he must have a plan. And
yeah, it's not super obvious to me that he kept 7. I can't tell, but we definitely saw Harrison put a card back. But when we came in, it was not super clear. But he definitely didn't go to 5. Looks like he's got plenty. Oh, he drew a Ragavan right at the top, just how we drew it up.
Okay, yep. Well, that works. Dash ability means we're not missing too much here. A little bit of mana efficiency, but that's okay. Dykman can overcome that, and he's ready to get in there. Presumably.
Yeah, certainly one of the best draws in the deck. And if Harrison is ready with a copy of Wrenn and Six, then it's actually better to not have it just in play and returning. You'd much rather have it returning your hand every end step than just dying to the Wrenn most of the time. So might even work out better this way.
Okay,
and so we will see him dash the Ragavan.
Yeah, now there is a bolt in Harrison's hand, so this will force a fetching of an untapped red source, but
Yeah, so
probably worthwhile to keep this Ragavan out of the way.
yeah, you definitely don't want to let the thing hit you too many times, and one time is probably too many, to be honest.
Yeah. Certainly, I mean, this is old news at this point, but when Ragavan was first printed or spoiled, it felt like the ability to play off the top was the more significant part, but it turns out to be the treasures most of the time.
Yeah, both are really key. I mean, the mana advantage is a huge part of the card, obviously.
Yeah.
But then the treasure's giving you the 5 colors of mana, so you can play like Teferi Time Raveler in Blue Red Murktide sometimes or whatever. It's just pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I have had the misfortune of having my own Teferi Time Raveler played by the opponent, and that is it's just very demoralizing.
It never feels good. It doesn't.
No.
All right, so it looks like Harrison was ready with the Lightning Bolt for the Ragavan and an abundant growth on the island, notably taking himself off of potential counterspell mana, but I think he's got another Misty Rainforest in hand, so he'll be okay.
Yeah, and maybe 2 copies of Wrenn and Six in hand, so that's
yeah,
not ideal at this point in the game. And
another Ragavan. Okay, maybe Steven was holding the Ragavan on purpose. I didn't see if that was what he drew this turn, but just to keep it out of Wrenn range, maybe it was an intentional. That's how he likes to approach the matchup, and he just didn't want the turn 2 Wrenn to be too bad.
Oh.
Teferi, but Steven is playing mono red and only has 1 treasure at this point, so can't make much use of that.
I'm sure he doesn't mind that Harrison isn't drawing it either.
Yeah. All right, and there's Light Up the Stage, which is basically a 1-mana draw 2, so quite powerful.
This red deck does have a lot of draw power. There are Light Up the Stage and Reckless Impulse.
Yeah, and with Underworld Breach, you just see, and Mission Swabble and Fetch Lands and stuff, you can really just see a ton of cards. That Unholy Heat is basically a brick, though, because Harrison doesn't have to play anything into it unless he doesn't want to. He sees it there, and he can let it go to waste if he wants.
Right.
I would expect him to run one of his 2 copies of Wrenn and Six out. Yeah, this makes total sense. So, yeah. Dykman doesn't even have Delirium. He has creature, sorcery, land, so it's going to take a lot of resources, and you get the land. And later in the game, the second Wrenn and Six is going to do almost nothing. So this makes total sense from his side as well.
Yeah, with being shorted instant, I mean, it might be worth a mana for Steven to just burn off the Unholy Heat to get an instant in the graveyard, even if it's not killing the Wrenn and Six. Although I think he drew a Lightning Bolt, so I suppose he could Lightning Bolt Harrison and then Unholy Heat the Wrenn and Six, which would be disappointing, I'm sure, for Steven, since there's another copy of Wrenn and Six in hand, but at least it does clear off the board. And Harrison is, we're not at the point where Harrison can freely use all the mana every turn. So it is something to have to recast it, but not ideal.
Yeah, especially with
wow, a pass.
Wow, did he really? I don't think there's no way he just passed the turn there, right?
I mean, that's what his gesture looked like, but
it looked like it, but it would just make no sense. I mean, like
maybe that was just okay. Do you want to cut my deck? No. Okay,
yeah.
And so another Ragavan.
And we attacked face, and it hit, and we are pretty far from that Emrakul, so that will probably stay in exile. If I
guess. Steven can check the graveyard, but I don't think he's got about 10 types in there. So this
song, no, that would be certainly impressive.
And this was a boon for Harrison because while he may have been willing to draw that Teferi Time Raveler, drawing the Emrakul was not going to do much.
No, yeah, the 13 mana spell. I assume that'll be one of the first cards boarded out, unless Harrison has a much different approach to this matchup than I would take.
All right. A question from the chat about decklists being posted. We are in top 8 now, so decklists are open for the players. They were closed during the Swiss. They should be available now on MTG Melee. If not, I'm sure they will be shortly or sometime tonight. I don't have that information offhand, but they are now public information. So you can, at whatever point, whether it's now or in a few hours, you can access every decklist in the event that was submitted over MTG Melee.
Yeah, so we're going to see Dykman use Lava Dart to deal just 1 to Harrison, but that puts an instant in the graveyard, which is crucial for turning on the Unholy Heat that was an exile from the light up and killing the Wrenn. And the board is empty, but this is basically exactly what you want to see if you're in the 4-color control seat, and it's basically what you don't want to see if you're in the mono red seat.
Yeah, certainly not a great start. I mean, Harrison is 11.
Yeah, I mean, he could definitely get burned out, especially if like a copy of Underworld Breach comes down in a few turns. Maybe some fireworks can happen, but if he's able to find a copy of Omnath, especially with that Eladamri's Call, then it is getting kind of spooky for Steven.
That may actually be with the call left up there. Yeah, maybe so for leading Omnath next turn. Dykman with 2 treasures. I mean, the Underworld Breach, I imagine the bottleneck at some point ends up being mana, but with actually 2 treasures available, there's a lot of mana for Steven to play with here.
Yeah, just 6 cards in the graveyard at the moment, maybe 7 at this point. And so we're not like an Underworld Breach here on its own would not be super potent,
Right.
especially because I think Harrison has a Solitude, so he could maybe take out a Dragon Rage Channeler mid combo turn or something to make it so the cards in graveyard is still a limiting factor for Steven.
Yeah,
but if he gets to untap and if he gets to call for Omnath, untap, play Omnath, draw a card, pick up a fetch with Wrenn and Six, make 5 more mana, gain a bunch of life, then it's going to spiral downhill pretty quickly.
Okay, there's another Ragavan. Oh, I guess that's the same one. I'm sorry.
You're good. Yeah, and then the Desperation Impulse going to need something really good here. Although I suppose since Harrison had to use his mana on the counterspell that turn, he can't call for Omnath. Oh, Swiftspear plus Bauble is among the better.
It's above average, certainly.
Better impulses that we could have seen there for sure. Yeah. So Swiftspear's up to 2 power. There's a Lava Dart in the graveyard. I think Dykman's hand is Sunbake Canyon, Soulscar Mage, and another card I can't quite make out. So he's going to go ahead and take a peek at Harrison's top card here, get a little more information before he proceeds. Just good tight sequencing there.
Drawing out that counterspell, if Harrison's plan was tutor for Omnath cast it, that's now been blown to shreds, and Dykman effectively buys a turn by forcing that counterspell out. And then with attack here, do you spring this Lava Dart for an extra damage here, or do you just sit on it?
You can't have good hopes about this Monastery Swiftspear surviving into next turn, and you do have plenty of lands, and you're going to need every point of damage this game, so I would not be shocked to see the Lava Dart use.
Yeah.
So let's see. I think if Steven wants to go bolt Harrison down to 8, he can Lava Dart him down to 7, and then the Swiftspear is 4. So he can put Harrison in bolt range. Dykman is not ready with a bolt this turn, but he, red decks have been top decking Lightning Bolt for 26 years now or something like that.
Exactly. So and that would lead. So we'll get to the point where a breach would then at that point.
Yeah, breach flashback bolt, or we could reckless impulse into a couple burn spells. Definitely in range.
Here comes the attack. There is a Solitude in hand for Harrison. Is there a white card to go with it? We know there is. There's an Eladamri's Call.
Yeah, so it looks like he's going to go ahead and use that to keep his life total high. If he doesn't have an Omnath in hand or another call, then he won't have access to the powerful 4-color elemental. But yeah, with the Swiftspear not being able to crash in for 4 there, Harrison has just enough life where he's likely to be able to pull away with this game, although his hand might just be lands, and so it's possible Steven could steal this one.
All right, well, Steven didn't have a ton going on. Did pick up a card off the bauble during the upkeep there. I didn't see what it was.
Yeah, it's Soulscar plus Sunbake Canyon plus whatever he drew off the bauble. And Harrison's just buying Yorion.
Okay.
I think his other 2 cards are lands. I can't tell exactly. All the foils are kind of confusing me, but
well, don't you join the club. We do not criticize people for not identifying foil alternate art, altered, signed, upside down cards. That's just par for the course.
upside down.
Hey, you laugh, but we had an upside down misprint last month.
Oh wow! So Dykman actually did draw the bolt. So if Harrison had not used the Solitude there to stay alive, it could have gotten pretty ugly. Although I suppose he would have gained some life off Omnath. So
yeah, indeed. Okay, so Yorion is looking at drawing 1 card with Abundant Growth right now, which is that's great and everything. And I guess it can hold off the Soulscar Mage. Another
bauble. So we're looking at Harrison's top card, but one would assume Harrison's going to crack the Misty, but maybe he doesn't want to go into double bolt range because he is sitting at 7 right now. So, Dykman might want to use the card. Okay, so he is going to crack the Misty, deny Dykman the information, win the information game, if you will.
Yeah, but taking a point there with it, I mean, if he wasn't going to crack the fetch otherwise, then this is kind of a victory for Dykman.
Yeah, it's like a free point almost, if you think about it, kind of. But yeah, 6 is definitely a crucial life total here. With Dykman sitting on a bolt, 1 more could get him across the finish line. Underworld Breach it's basically game over at this point if Dykman ever draws that.
Right. Soulscar Mage unlikely to get it done. That would look like a Teferi for the turn. That's
okay.
Nice.
Since the threat does not have haste, it's Soulscar Mage, which is not. It's probably the worst threat in Dykman's deck. so replaces itself and buys Harrison a little bit of time, which is all he really wants with this 4-color control deck, right? With so many impactful spells in almost every color.
All right, so there's the Teferi. Does Dykman have a response? The answer
No,
appears
just
to be
let's
no.
resolve. What did he draw? Another Hallowed Fountain. So his hand is Misty Rainforest for sure. And he's going to pick up another Misty, and he's got the Yorion we know about, and then he's sitting on something else. He's notably tapped himself out of Counterspell, so Steven doesn't have to worry about that this turn with the Stomping Ground untapped.
Can we get the spotter to confirm the life totals? Because I feel like Harrison was at 7, and then we think he fetched.
He should be at 6,
So,
unless
if the previous life total is correct, then you should be at
else.
6 right now. So either there was an error before, or else we haven't got that last point recorded. But that would be good to know. Okay, there's a better creature.
I think Dykman might have a light up the stage, so we might be. Oh, yeah, I think his hand is Bolt, one of each 1-mana prowess creature, and a light up the stage. So, yeah, we're. Oh, it's another Swiftspear. My mistake. Sorry.
Okay, Soulscar Mage. Another Swiftspear? A Swiftspear would be
Yeah, so we can bolt Harrison down to 3 if and then we can attack him down to 1. All those fetch lands that he's sitting on are off at that point, if that's true, and then he's facing down 3 lethal threats and a deck that could yield any lava darts or Underworld Breach, Lightning Bolt, really just any number of things. So that would be a very precarious spot, but of course Dykman doesn't know that that Harrison is sitting on just the lands right now, so
an attack here. So holding the bolt, giving up a point on the potential prowess. Harrison dropping to 5
does seem pretty reasonable. It's not like the difference there is huge, and you could get another prowess trigger out of the Soul Scar next turn. Fury off the top for Harrison. What a top deck! Oh my goodness gracious! And he knows that he's going to divide the damage however he wants because there's a Teferi in play, so he just gets to go 2/2 without any concern. Although he might want to kill the Dragon Rage Channeler because it is a flyer.
Yeah, he could go. Yeah, he could go 2/2, 3/1, whatever, and use the Wrenn and Six to kill Dragon Rage plus another creature.
That's probably the best line is deal 1 to Soul Scar, 3 to Dragon Rage, and then use the Wrenn to finish off the Soul Scar, leaving Dykman with just a Swiftspear and Harrison with a precarious 5 life, but 5 is not 0.
Right. Dykman's like, okay, you said 4 to Swiftspear? No. Okay.
Yeah, and we're going to pick up the Soul Scar Mage because it does have even though it is a worse card than Swiftspear, generally speaking, it does have a line of text in play that is more relevant than Swiftspear's haste, unless you're intending on bouncing the Swiftspear sometime soon. Is that another bolt off the top?
I believe it might have been.
For 6 points, and Harrison's at 5? And even worst case, if Harrison does have something like a counterspell, it grows the Swiftspear up to 3/4, so Dykman can at least force a jump, even if Harrison were to have a counterspell, which I don't think he does.
Yeah, it would be a trade, but
yes, my bad.
Yeah, 2 bolts
and no counterspell.
There it is.
So there we go. Wow. Okay.
Dykman grabs the first game. I mean, drawing the burn spells is what he needed, but that is often the case for the burn deck, for the prowess deck, and that worked out. Nice play by Steven Dykman, picking up that first game, despite really doing nothing on the first turn.
Yeah, that was a really well played game on both sides. I was wondering if Harrison was going to try to set up a line where maybe he takes a hit and then he calls for Omnath, untaps, and then utilizes that to actually pull ahead to avoid the situation. But I'm not sure if the cards would have actually let him do that. Pitching the call to the Solitude was just so brutal.
It was a big cost. It did stop, I think, 4 points of incoming damage, which is actually how much life the Omnath is going to gain there. But
so like the call could maybe bring it back. Omnath makes enough mana where you hard cast the Solitude, then you have a 3/2 lifelink threat and play 2. Right. I'm not sure exactly how it would have played out if he'd taken the other line, but he went for that one, and it unfortunately did not work out well for him. Fortunately, though, for Steven Dykman.
In the preview window, we can see Dykman consulting his opponent's deck list. We'll go ahead and do that same right now. We'll pop the list back up again. If you're just joining us, we're in the top 8 of the 302-player Modern 5K, the biggest individual solo event Nerd Rage has had. And we see here Dykman's deck list, Mono Red Prowess, featuring a pair of Underworld Breach. Sideboard cards for control decks. Torpor Orb, generally useful against Incarnations and Omnath type decks.
Yeah, I assume if you're putting Torpor Orb in your deck, you're going to probably bring it in against a deck that is all enters battlefield abilities. I'm not sure if I would personally want to include Torpor Orb in a deck like this for a matchup like this, but one would assume that if you want to play it, then you disagree with that assessment and you're going to bring it in against this deck. Alpine Moon, Chalice of the Void, Shattering Spree are all pretty much useless. Soul Guide and Pyrite Spellbomb. We see Pyrite Spellbombs just as a way to hedge against Sanctifier on Vec, Brent and Forge Tender, other protection from red cards that you see commonly in modern decks. But yeah, I think it's just the 2 Torpor Orbs that Dykman's really considering here. I'm not sure what you would trim. Maybe the Mutagenic Growth, because there's so much removal and it's hard to stick a threat anyway, and you don't want to get stranded with it in your hand. I'm not sure. Maybe you can cut. You're on the draw against Wrenn and Six, so there's always some temptation to look at cutting creatures with 1 toughness.
Yeah, perhaps. But yeah, not a whole lot to do here for Dykman. Maybe 2 cards. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the opposition. Harrison Kanfer's 4-color control deck. Well, I think it's safe to say Emrakul's on the way out.
I would be pretty shocked if that remained in Harrison's deck post board.
But yeah, there's more. Certainly, Harrison has more things to bring in than Steven did.
Aether Gust is pretty good. It's pretty solid, generally speaking, just because, it's a green or red deck, right?
Right.
The card kind of tells you when you want it. But Endurance is sneakily really strong because a 3/4 lines up really well against a lot of Dykman's creatures and removal spells, as well as Underworld Breach being one of the better cards in the matchup. Dragon Rage Channeler has to attack into it, and you can turn off Delirium for other Dragon Rage Channelers, and then you can maybe shuffle away a Lava Dart. There's just plenty of ways. I would expect the Endurances to come in. Knight of Autumn can gain 4 life, which is just all you want. So all you want to do is just survive against these red decks, because your late game is vastly superior, especially once you have Endurance, so you can actually fight over the Underworld Breaches, so you have a tool to make sure that doesn't punk you out on turn 10 or so,
Right. Okay, the players are presenting. Let's go ahead and go back down to the table.
Fast sideboarding from both of them. They both know what's
well,
up.
these players, they're in effectively round 10 for themselves as the quarterfinals of a 9-round Swiss event. These players should know what they're doing.
Yeah, and I assume they both played Modern, or I assume they both played the team event in some capacity yesterday. If they both played Modern, then they're on probably like their 17th or 18th match of high stakes Magic this weekend. So
yeah,
Dykman gonna go to 6, it looks like. Looks like Harrison happy with his 7-card hand.
We'll see some more shuffling here. In the meantime, we'll just remind you, thanks for being here. If you missed some of the highlights from this weekend, or in fact are just joining us and didn't watch it all, if you're just looking for the key matches to watch, well, the ones you might want to check out, my recommendation would be round 7 from the team event yesterday and the finals this morning. Those were, I would say, the highlight rounds of the team event. But the entire event will be posted up on YouTube within the week. If you want to check out, it's also available on Twitch replay. Obviously, you can see it right now.
Wow, YouTube's already available now.
Wow.
Look at that.
Yeah. Okay.
Uploaded day of, basically, because the tournament concluded this morning. So
yes, it did. There you go. Really I'm shocked. I must say, I'm shocked. But there you go. Yep, it's available now. All right. Well, yeah, check out round 7 and check out the finals. If you have more time, watch the whole event. But those are the 2 you don't want to miss. All right, Dykman drawing up 7 here with 1 to put back, assuming it's keepable.
Yep, I saw at least a few lands, a Mistress Bauble, and I think a Ragavan, and that sounds like a Lava Dart as well. So yeah, Dykman looks happy with his 6. I might have been wrong about the Ragavan, but he's definitely happy with his 6, putting a card back here.
Well, do we have a turn 1 creature this time? It's hard to imagine that he won't, but he didn't last game.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if Dykman drew the second Ragavan per turn and he just runnered Ragavan.
That's right.
Or if he was holding it to play around Wrenn and Six.
Yeah.
Very astute.
Yeah, he may have passed on the 1 drop on purpose last game. I don't want to discount that. You are absolutely right about that. This time around, another pass.
Yeah, so just land go, and so Dykman, I believe he bobbled himself here, and then if he didn't like it, what he was going to do is he was going to use the Bloodstained Mire to shuffle his library, so he would draw different cards. Like if he already has 3 lands in hand, so he's another land. Not really what you want with mono red, so you're going to try to shuffle away for a spell, but he didn't shuffle, and so Harrison now knows that Dykman at least has a card that he tops. Likes.
Did you see what it was they got left up there?
I could not. Dykman is flicking his cards very fast.
It was the Torpor Orb. The Torpor Orb was the card that was left on top,
nice. Okay.
And Dykman was like, you know what?
Brought it in.
It is worth skipping my turn 1 play if I have one in order to draw this Torpor Orb.
Yeah, so Fury and Solitude, notably, they can come into play for free because Torpor Orb does shut off their sacrifice ability. So Harrison will be able to like pitch a red card and play a Fury as a 3/3 double strike, or maybe a Solitude as a 3/2 lifelink with Flash to ambush in combat or something. But they will not be Swords to Plowsharesing or Pyrokinesising anytime soon.
Right on, yeah. And Omnath just gets so much worse. I guess
It
it
is
still
definitely
maintains.
worse, but Omnath is still
It's
pretty
still
devastating in this
it's still
matchup.
it becomes basically the Alchemy Omnath.
Sure, yeah, I don't actually know what that is, but I believe you.
The Alchemy Omnath does not cantrip; it just scries 1.
Oh, didn't they change it back though? It's 5 mana, but it draws now.
It's also it's also 5 mana.
Yeah, I think it's 5, but it draws now.
Okay,
I was
that.
playing
I'm
some
not
Historic
sure.
recently, so I am somewhat familiar with the fake cards.
Yeah, I don't know. I played a lot of Alchemy, and I don't see many Omnaths, so I may be wrong
Yeah,
on that. But
I was wondering if it was going to be playable, and it was very much not. At least in Historic.
okay, so Mr. Dykman, what do you have for us?
I assume the Torpor Orb's gonna come down now. Okay, there it is. Harrison does have a few answers to this. If he wants, like he has prismatic endings. The Knight of Autumn is notably not going to work. This card has shut down reclamation stages and the sliver, harmonic sliver, since it's existed, really. Kind of funny that your disenchants cannot work against a premium thing that you would want to disenchant, but that is the world we live in.
Yeah, not a card that's. I mean, it's certainly it's had its effective points over the years, but it's not a card that sees heavy play. So I don't think anyone really worries too much about it.
No.
At least in the past, it's become obviously much better as these elemental incarnations have just proliferated throughout the format. And there is Ice-Fang Coatl, presumably in response to the Torpor Orb.
Yeah, it would be definitely an interesting line to do at end of turn.
That would be
Torpor Orb. All right,
bad.
end of turn. I'll play Ice-Fang Coatl.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, a lot of misplays. You can argue like, okay, there was a plan here, but that would be justified.
Maybe he has only 1 card in his deck, Joe. You don't know. All right, it's Teferi Time Raveler. Make Dykman pick up the Torpor Orb and invest a little more mana on his next turn if he wants to keep that powerful static ability in play. Although it does go to 1 loyalty, so Lava Dart could clean up Harrison's board here, although I assume that we would leave the Ice-Fang Coatl in play until it's actually a problem. Taking the Teferi out now is desirable if Dykman does have a Lava Dart. I think I see a Swift Spear and a Lightning Bolt, so maybe an appealing turn could be Swift Spear, Lightning Bolt the Ice-Fang Coatl, but I'm not entirely sure he has those in his hand. In any case, Dykman looks like he's just going to go ahead and redeploy the Torpor Orb here. And Harrison does have a Solitude in his hand, so... And there's the Lava Dart, so that'll probably come back at some point and take care of this Coatl, and it took the Teferi off the board already, so really excellent spot for that card.
Yep, not too bad for Dykman. And with the orb on the board, okay, well, there's
another copy of the Time Raveler, although it goes to 1 again, can get Lava Darted again, but it's drawing a card each time for Harrison.
This is a problem, that I'm sure everyone has experienced, where if your opponent just has running Teferis, I mean, they're just cantripping and slowing you down, and Harrison just all Harrison wants to do is get to the mid-late game, and this just such a good job of getting there. Time for land drops.
Yeah, the name of the game here for Harrison is just to survive as long as possible, and he's doing a great job of that. He's at 16. I think all the damage might just be self-inflicted. I don't think Dykman's gotten a single hit in, and now he's in enough trouble where he feels like he has to go for Reckless Impulse to bail him out. He does find an Unholy Heat, which can tag that Teferi Time Raveler. So at least we can get the problematic Planeswalker out of the way.
It does. That unlocks the door for Omnath, though, which is in hand for Harrison. And I think Steven has actually drawn the 2nd copy of Torpor Orb. So,
oh, wow. Yeah, that is not an effect you want to draw 2 copies of for sure. I actually played a feature match at the Nerd Rage Championship where I brought in Torpor Orb against a similar deck to Harrison's as Hammer, and I ended up dying with 2 Stoneforge Mystics in my hand. So...
things don't always work quite the way you draw them up.
No. Sometimes it's not how you draw it up, So yeah, 2 Torpor Orbs in hand. The second one, not great, although Harrison might try to Prismatic Ending the first one at some point.
And Steven thinking about should Torpor Orb come back down or not?
So one notable thing is that a lot of the enters battlefield abilities are reactive in this deck. So if you don't have anything in play, it's not a huge deal to let them have, like, what are they going to do? Solitude, nothing. Fury, nothing. Omnath might draw a card. Eternal Witness might pick something up, and those are definitely things to be worried about. But a lot of the abilities are okay. So we're just going to go ahead and use the Lava Dart to take this out now, and we're going to use the Heat later on the Coatl. Fair enough. Fair enough.
I mean, there's you could maybe argue for just dumping in Solitude there. If there was one,
just as a 3/2
attacking.
lifelink, pitch a white card. I mean, gaining 3 life against the red deck. Here is the Omnath we were talking about. It doesn't draw a card, but if Harrison has a fetch land to follow it up, he's going to make 5 mana, gain a bunch of life, and the game is going to kind of start spiraling. I think I see a Flooded Strand too, and that is a Flooded Strand. That is bad news for Dykman.
It's 4 life and 5 mana, or it's 4 life and then 4 more or 3 more life on Dykman's turn.
I mean, Omnath is truly a disgusting card, and even though it didn't draw a card here, it cost Dykman 2 mana and a card of his own, and you could argue that that's better than drawing a card, is making Dykman spend mana. Wow, so we have an Eladamri's Call here. I'm not sure what we're going to get, since most of the best creatures are enters battlefield creatures, but I'm sure Harrison has something good in mind here. Probably not Eternal Witness, which was my first instinct, but maybe don't get that one.
Yeah, it could just be, I mean, could be thinning a white, okay, back up
We're
Omnath.
going to get another Omnath, just in case this one dies. Yeah, I mean, there's an Unholy Heat in place. This actually makes total sense, or Unholy Heat is an exile off of the Reckless Impulse, rather. Dykman, I don't think, has Delirium, so... But yeah, back up Omnath, and we gained a bunch of life off this one, and...
Yeah, and if it's not required, then he can just pitch it to Solitude.
Wow, and now we just get to ending the Torpor Orb, although Dykman doesn't hate to see that, since he has the second copy.
I mean, I guess that's in his favor. I mean, it still costs him his mana for the turn, but I don't know if he has even anything else worth doing at this point. It's hard. All his creatures, nothing's getting through that Omnath.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a nasty looking game for Dykman here, but the red deck on the play can be really, really fast and really, really brutal. So if Dykman has like a multiple creature start and Harrison isn't immediately ready with one of his couple copies of Fury, then it's going to get pretty ugly in the third game. Although it's possible Dykman could win this game. He surprised this last game too.
You're talking about a prospective game 3. I wonder, at this point, is Dykman also thinking about a prospective game 3? Has he given up on this game?
If Dykman wins this game, I will be shocked. I would be very impressed.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've had some impressive finishes, but this one, yeah, the margins here are Dykman is so far behind.
It's pretty bad. The Torpor Orb, second Torpor Orb, is in play, although you can kind of see some of the problems with it. Lava Darting the Ice-Fang Coatl, so that puts, we have instant artifact, land, and then I assume there's a creature. Yeah, I assume there's something. I assume Dykman has done the math since the graveyard is off the screen. We can't quite make it out, but
artifact, instant, sorcery, land would do it, or creature, either way. Okay, obviously it's there. Omnath dies, and I mean, how miserable is that? You kill the Omnath, and you know your opponent has another one.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to draw a card, so I guess we got that going for us. But Harrison has plenty of mana. He's got a Wrenn and Six in hand. Yorion's threatening to come down, even though Yorion doesn't have an enters battlefield ability with the Torpor Orb in play. It is still a 4/5 flyer, and honestly, Dykman is going to be hard pressed to beat that at this point.
Yeah,
so it's just a Stomping Ground, so no free mana for Harrison here, so that's definitely good. And the Wrenn and Six is not super impactful, though it does mean a fetch land can come down next turn, giving Harrison access to up to 11 mana, which is quite a lot.
See, we talked about boarding out this Emrakul. This was clearly an error.
Does he have it in his hand?
No, I'm just saying he clearly would have the mana to cast it next turn.
Okay, yeah. I was like, oh my goodness, if he casts, if he Emrakul's the mono red deck and wins that way, that would be obscene. And that is a cast ability, so maybe that's just the true anti-Torpor Orb attack, right?
We're asking a lot here of Dykman. Even, I mean, Harrison's above 20. I mean, there's so much work to be done here. Underworld Breach isn't going to get him halfway there. But I guess the more you play, if you see additional sideboard cards, you can have a better idea of how your opponent boarded. There are things to learn. No reason to concede here. An untimed match in the elimination rounds. As long as you don't depress yourself. If there's a risk of demoralizing yourself by continuing to play a losing game, then he should concede now. Otherwise, there's nothing but upside to keep playing.
Bolting the Omnath, and we're gonna use the Lava Dart to finish it off. Goodness, I mean, it's 9 p.m. I believe Dykman is from Michigan, and y'all are in Minnesota. So I would not blame Dykman for going next, but he's got the heart of a warrior here, and he's going to keep battling it out. His last card in hand is a Ragavan, and it looks like it's going to connect. Although I suppose Harrison could trade the Solitude for it by just blocking.
Yeah, I mean that is costly, and that is the play. It looks like.
Oh, I think it's a judge question to make sure that it doesn't get sacrificed if there's a Torpor Orb in play. And it looks like we're going for that line, and we're going to gain 3 up to an insurmountable 24 if we make and Dykman down to no cards in hand, facing down a Wrenn, a Yorion, and an opponent with 24 life.
But we talked about gaining information. Steven just learned that Harrison didn't board Solitude out. That's valuable intel.
Oh yeah, I board out. Solitude's really a fringe card that some people board out against the decks that are reliant on creatures. Yeah, that's yeah. We have gained some information.
It also, I mean, we saw this morning a player forget to their companion accidentally got shuffled in the deck for a sideboard game. So by putting it into hand, Harrison now increased the chance of that happening. Another small victory for Dykman.
True. We are really getting all the edges that we can get here.
Granted, the player who accidentally boarded their companion in won the game, but still, in general, it makes it harder.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. All right, so we're gonna cash in a Sunbaked Canyon there, or some other, or maybe a Fiery Islet for a card. We got an Unholy Heat and a Bauble. I guess we can heat this Wrenn. But yeah, you can sort of see the problem with these Torpor Orbs, right? I mean, we drew them, and Harrison had multiple enters the battlefield effects. He had multiple Solitudes, multiple Omnaths, but we had to invest 2 mana I think actually 4 different times because they got Teferi twice, and we played a second copy and multiple cards, and we didn't really advance our own game plan. And what we really need to do is exactly that, advancing our own game plan and just try to get him dead.
Yeah, well, that's not exactly working out right now. The Unholy could take down the Wrenn and Six, or maybe it's being saved for the Yorion. But it's still, I mean, Dykman's not even making progress. Harrison's life total is increasing.
Yeah, this, I guess, I suppose Jegantha is bigger than Yorion, and that could theoretically come up if Dykman draws lands and Harrison never draws a relevant spell for the next 6 or 7 turns. That's an Omnath. Okay.
Does that count as relevant? I think it does.
Well, it doesn't draw a card, Joe. So it's.
You're right. It's worthless.
we're just truly an awful card. I mean, just embarrassing. Imagine playing an Omnath with it. I mean, what are you going to possibly do with that? Just play a 4/4 that gains 4 life and makes 4 mana every single turn. That's it. Embarrassing.
Yeah, so that's the 3rd Omnath of the game.
So we're not going to put the Yorion into play. I thought we could maybe crack that Flooded Strand and do that, or
Harrison may feel like that Strand is just worth the life points to be gained by breaking it on Steven's turn.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think it's all roads lead to Rome here. We do have an Unholy Heat take down the Omnath.
Yeah, I mean, it's also possible Harrison read Steven for the second heat because the first one took down the Wrenn and Six, despite him knowing about the Omnath, the Yorion in hand. So he's just waiting to see if, you're going to do this anyway. I may as well wait on it. Dykman, okay, that's Jegantha coming to hand. All right.
Yeah, I suppose an Underworld Breach off the top for Dykman could get him somewhere. Can't quite make out his entire graveyard here, once again.
I guess there is time for that, barring drawing counterspells. We talked about Endurance being good against Underworld Breach, but that's shut down by the Torpor Orb.
Yeah. So Harrison would need a counterspell. I would be a little surprised if you left them in. I guess it's not unreasonable, especially because you can navigate to positions where you have it all rolled up except for Breach. And so maybe you want a couple copies of counterspell in for that reason. But traditionally not great against decks like this.
Right. Steven's other card besides Jegantha, I think, is Dragon Rage Channeler, choosing not to put it out there because it would have to attack into the Yorion. That wouldn't accomplish very much. And Yorion just comes across.
Yeah, so now we just sort of see the slow The very slow. I don't actually have anything, but I've survived long enough, and I'm at 27 life, so I'll just sort of start to kill you with this 4 or 5 flying, while you just sort of draw 1 card a turn, and it's going to be a lava dart or a lightning bolt or something,
Mhm.
or just other smaller impact cards, and eventually Harrison's deck is likely to take over. So Dykman drew a lava dart, which, in combination with the Dragon Rage Channeler in his hand, could give him a surveil, maybe 2 surveils if he wants to second land, although that is not the most enticing option with a Gigantha in hand.
Yeah. Okay. Dykman. I mean, okay. I think Dykman's at 11. Okay, there we go. 3 hits from Yorion, but
Expressive Iteration, yeah, that is exactly the kind of card that Harrison's looking for. Just look at the top 3, basically you get to take 2, and just a land and a Solitude, but really just a 3/2 lifelink, just continuing to pull ahead. And actually, something that Harrison could do here is, if Dykman is Delirium, he can hang back, and the Dragon Rage Chandler is going to be forced to attack into the Yorion,
mhm.
which is not great, although there is something to be said for just getting Dykman down to 7. The Solitude plus the Yorion makes 7 for Harrison next turn, and we could just take an irrelevant 3 down to 24 for Harrison.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't. Yeah. I mean, the Solitude's just going to gain the life back. So
Yeah,
it's an even trade. And yeah, Harrison is in there with Yorion.
yeah. I definitely don't mind crunching there for a little damage. Make sure we pick up a fetch land, and yeah, you definitely get to these states sometimes in games with these 4-color decks where your hand is like 5 lands because you've had a Wrenn and Six in play for like 8 turns, and you've been drawing
Mhm.
extra land, and it feels like you're flooding really hard. Although Harrison is definitely flooding a little bit, but it's not as bad as it looks since he has been drawing extra land every turn off of the Wrenn and Six.
Okay, Steven attacks in here for 3, which he's forced to do, attacking Wrenn and Six or to Harrison. I mean, at this point, it's so far away from killing Harrison. Well, it still comes across.
All right, upstairs, down to
Yeah.
24. Progress. Yeah, all right. Well,
Oh,
we enabled
okay,
the
that
land at the
makes
stage
sense.
in hand, so
Yeah.
that's good. Tanking on the Surveil could be what's close. I kind of think I would be pretty tempted to bid anything that isn't an Underworld Breach, although Dykman decides to keep the Lightning Bolt,
Okay.
which with that Soulscar Mage, we can shrink the Yorion down to
Mhm.
a 1/2, assuming that our Soulscar Mage doesn't get killed in response by a Lightning Bolt or something like that.
All right. This makes the Solitude plan, I guess, worse, but still feasible.
Yeah, I mean, it'll probably just trade with the Lightning Bolt, and then
Yeah.
we get to crunch in, put Steven down to 3, facing down a 4/5 flyer. Not
Yeah.
exactly what we're going to be with a red deck, but the
Actually, I
Soulscar
think
Mage does make
maybe what we'd
problems.
see is Bolt on Yorion and then Soulscar Mage trading with Solitude with Prowess. So the Yorion
True,
actually shrinks.
that's then Harrison's down to just a 1/2 flyer, and
Yeah.
then
That would,
theoretically a breach off the top for Dykman could get him somewhere.
yeah. I mean, it's something. Uh,
Oh, that's a
well,
Boseiju
yeah.
on the Torpor board.
Well, now Dykman has enough mana to cast Gigantha.
That is true,
You gotta look for the
although
positives here
the
because there aren't
Solitude
very
can
many
now
of them.
exile a creature, and his top decks are very, very live for this position. Yeah, I think his hand is just it's just lands and a Solitude here, but I would imagine that's good enough to get it done outside of some sequence where Dykman top decks Underworld Breach and Harrison breaks off.
Yeah.
So if we target the Soulscar Mage here, then Dykman gains 1 up to 8 unless he chooses to bolt in response, which I would kind of expect him to do that.
Yeah.
Probably on the Solitude, just because the lifelink is really problematic for his hopes of winning this game. But
Well, Dykman has certainly dragged this one out for a while, trying to catch up, but Harrison's stack is just not blowing the doors off of him, but certainly just doing enough to keep Dykman from really having much hope.
yeah, so it looks like we're going to see Dykman use the bolt on the Solitude, prioritizing the lifelink there. We're going to get a Surveil off the Dragon Rage Channeler, so that's one more look at Underworld Breach, which is probably the only card that could give Dykman a chance here. Again, assuming that Harrison. Okay, so we're binning a Dragon Race Chandler makes total sense because that card is just not impactful enough to get back into this game.
All right, Solitude down. I think there might be a. Is there a Lava Dart? Is the other card?
Yeah, looks like we're going to use that to maybe shrink the Yorion so we can buy ourselves a little more time, a few more looks at Underworld Breach, binning a Mishra's Bauble. Okay, not Underworld Breach, not good enough. Maybe we'll see a flashback of the Lava Dart here, although that would take us off of Gigantha mana. So if you actually think Gigantha gives you a chance at winning the game, then that's not super desirable.
Yeah, it also just takes you away from mana, and you do. I mean, if you find Underworld Breach, you're going to need mana to work with here, and
yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
we are going to sack it though, and we're going to put Yorion down to being a 2/3, and Swiftspear also not Underworld Breach, so we're going to go ahead and put it in the bin, and we're going to gain 3 life up to 10.
Okay.
All right. So
there's
Dykman has maneuvered this into a position that isn't truly horrible.
Yeah,
I mean, you catch what Harrison drew there?
This Wrenn and Six is looming, and normally you would think, well, the burn deck can erase that, but that is not the case here. Harrison being at 23. Wrenn and Six Emblem is something we've already seen today, and it seems unlikely.
Okay, looks like we're going to cycle a Triome, which is actually secretly or sneakily a very good draw here with the Wrenn and Six in play. That's at least 2 draws, and then if the Wrenn survives, it's another draw. And Wrenn is on 6 loyalty, so it's going to require a lot of resources from Dykman to even begin to get rid of it.
Now, we talk about power creep sometimes. I remember when cycle lands were 1 to cycle, and now they're 3?
Well, these ones do tap for three colors, and you can fetch them.
Well, I mean, sure, in some ways they're better.
Really, I mean, Magic cards have just gotten so much weaker in the last 20 years.
Oh, yeah. All right, attack for 2. Dykman down to 8.
Lightning Bolt. Oh, we got a Reckless Impulse. Okay, 2 looks. Any breaches? We got a Sunbaked Canyon and a Monastery Swiftspear.
So, no. I mean, it's something. Land drop is something. Swiftspear, I mean, you can attack.
Yeah, we can use Bolt to take down the Yorion. Okay, Ice-Fang Coatl to draw a card, and yeah, this is it's looking bad. I think we drew a Teferi Time Raveler there.
Well, that can actually reset the Yorion and grow it.
Yeah, it can grow it. It can reset the ETB if we manage to find anything good to blink in the meantime. All right, looks like we're done here. We're moving on to game 3. Respect that concession.
Well, that took a while, but there's nothing wrong with that. I don't even know if there's any more quarterfinal matches still playing right now, but we've got one more game to go in this one. Can Steven Dykman win on the play? We'll find out.
The red deck on the play is very fearsome. I mean, the 1-mana creatures, when you're facing down, I mean, Ragavan against Wrenn and Six it's been somewhat okay to get it rend when you're on the draw, when you're on the play, because you can then attack it with your Monastery Swiftspear or your Soul Scar or your Dragon Rage or whatever. When you're on the draw, it's way too bad because then the Wrenn is going to require another card like immediately, and if you don't use the Lightning Bolt on it, then they're going to have lands for the rest of the game, and that's all they need. And if you do, then it's just an easy 2-for-1 that traded for a card in play and a card out of your hand that you had to spend mana on. It was just pretty devastating. But on the play, Dykman's chances are much, much better. If I was Dykman, I'd be definitely prioritizing a creature on turn 1 because he hasn't done that in either of the games, and I think that's definitely one of the easiest ways for him to beat this 4-color deck is just getting under it, because you can see what happens when the game goes to turn 15 there. The cards are just so much better in the 4-color deck that when you can cast them all, 4-color is just so likely to win.
Yeah,
and they both cast all their cards, and 4-color win.
So let's go ahead and look if we have an updated bracket so we can see how the rest of the matches are playing out while these players, we've already seen their list. Okay, so this is the last match. Sam Boilu with Team Aranos, the #1 overall seed, who won in round 9 on camera. He has won. Travis Dahl, who we saw earlier today, is at Murktide.
All right.
Will Kowalczyk, who did advance without playing as his opponent did leave before.
Yeah, I mean, that is a gift right there. I mean, you top 8 a tournament, and then, yeah, sorry, man, I just got to go.
Yeah. I mean, maybe your car mates are just like, hey, listen, we're hungry, we're leaving. You can either move here or else you're coming with us now. And you're like, fine, I guess I have to drop.
Yeah, fair
Anyway,
enough. I don't
and
know what
then
happened
we'll
with
play
Will
against the winner of this match, Stephen Dykman or Harrison Kanfer. So let's
a fellow
get
Will
back down to the
K.
table
Love that.
and see how this is playing out. See if the players are ready to go. Hopefully, 7-card hands on both sides, so we can have a nice competitive. Well, I wasn't going to say drawn out, but we just had a drawn out game, and it wasn't competitive at all.
No. Well,
So,
I mean, there were a few
I mean,
turns where if Dykman was
yeah,
to draw one of his couple copies of Underworld Breach, it might have become competitive.
yeah,
Maybe.
there were openings.
Yeah, I mean, the Mishra's Baubles really mean the mana being gated on mana is less of a big deal. He had a lot of cards in his graveyard, so
Mhm.
it was definitely possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, what we're really focusing on here is turn 1 and 2. How many creatures can Dykman have in play, and also can we fade like getting Furied out of the game? Like if we go turn 1 guy, hit you, turn 2 guy, get a Furied, and then it all kind of falls apart, then it's bad. But if we can hit a couple times, then it's basically just a dream because that's so much damage, and it ends the game as fast as possible, which is exactly what this deck wants to do in this matchup, and really every matchup because it is a mono.
Are you ever, if you're in Dykman seat, are you ever playing around Fury? I mean, if you have the multiple 1-drop draw, are you ever just not playing them all out?
Absolutely. Like if you let's say your hand is like 2 Swift Spears and a Lightning Bolt, right?
Okay.
You go Swift Spear attack for 1, and then your Swift Spear lives. You untap. You play your second land. You play a Swift Spear. You attack for 2. You wouldn't fire off your bolt right there because there's pretty decent odds that that the opponent's going to untap. They're going to go 2/2 with Fury just because they have to live. And you Lightning Bolt. You save both your guys. And if they go 4/1, that's fine too. Because if you let them get 2/2 by tapping out, then it is pretty devastating. Although one notable thing is if you do have a copy of Mutagenic Growth, of which Dykman plays 1 copy. You can bait them if you were to just jam bolt, tap out. Yeah, man, just Fury my board. What could possibly go wrong? Not like I would just counter it for 2 life. No big.
Yeah, that would be an excellent way, and it's impossible for Harrison to play around the 1 of like that.
Yeah, I mean when when Dykman's tapped out and it's so bad for him to untap with 2 Prowess guys, then you probably just want to get greedy there in some spots. Although using a bolt, I mean, a player like Dykman, he's a strong player. He probably would not use a bolt in this scenario described. There we go. He does have a turn 1 creature. Notably, he let on a Sunbaked Canyon, indicating that his hand is light on lands. Maybe he's reliant on a light up the stage. Maybe he has another Sunbaked Canyon or Fiery Islet or some such in his hand. But he definitely does not have a mountain in his hand, I'll tell you that much.
Right. He does have a Torpor Orb again.
Does he? Okay, sure. Yeah, I mean, he is committed to the Torpor Orbs. They did not look great in the last game, and I kind of think that's probably going to be a pretty standard way that plays out. Okay, looks like we're going to Windswept Heath for basic planes and ending, just staying at 19 life, keeping the Prowess creatures off the board. So he does have another Sunbaked Canyon. Still no mountain in the hand, because assuredly Dykman would have played a mountain by now. And yeah, he's committed to just dashing these Ragavans and never losing them to Wrenn and Six, although I believe Harrison did lead on a planes, and so we probably don't have to be super concerned with Wrenn and Six, at least for the time being.
Okay, well, Ragavan connects, treasure found.
Yep, just another Windswept Heath off the top of the library for Harrison. Just goes to exile, and Bauble, take a look post-combat. Makes sense, because there's not a ton of use just taking a look and then exiling with Ragavan. You're going to see it anyway.
Oh, and there's another Bauble, so you're definitely going to see the cards. So
I want to see it twice. Although sometimes, if you're really far ahead, you can Bauble them, and if it's a good card, then you Ragavan, and if you think you can afford to not Ragavan, you can be like, you can draw the land and you're dead.
Yeah.
Although I want the treasure here, so
I've considered that as being a possibility. However, I have not actually executed that yet.
I've done it a couple times, but it is definitely an interesting mono red lantern strategy, if you will.
Sure. Okay, Ragavan returns to hand.
Right, another basic here. So I think that's just green and white, although it is somewhat hard to tell apart. So
no, I believe you're correct. I believe that is green and white. So that would be Eladamri's Call, or I guess it could be Abundant Growth on the.
Yeah, we're just gonna go for Abundant Growth here, and then we're gonna turn that plains into a Utopia land, basically. So it's perfect. I think that's another Abundant Growth. So if Yorion does manage to come down this game, it's drawing at least 2 cards, maybe even doing more.
Yes, it does, however, mean no bolts or defensive cards here aside from Pitch Solitude. So Dykman has clear road for Dash Ragavan again if he wants it.
Yeah, he's got a clean shot at it. All right, there's a mountain. One can only assume that was drawn off of one of the Bauble triggers of the draw step here. And in for 2. Harrison down to 14. Another brick with just a land off the top. But Dykman up to 2 treasures. He's building up a mana advantage, which is certainly reasonable. And we're going to use our land and one of our treasures to develop the Torpor Orb. Okay, there we go. So Solitudes are, I don't want to say off because we can still play 0 mana 3/2 lifelinkers.
And there is a lightning bolt for Harrison off the top. Arguably a little later than he would have liked, but still in plenty of time to get the job done, as Dykman will almost certainly commit 2 mana for that Ragavan again this turn.
Yeah, so Harrison, I believe, just drew its Teferi Time Raveler, and so he's got bigger plans than just jamming it and bouncing the orb. I assume he doesn't want to just die to the Ragavan, so like you said, he'll probably just bolt the Ragavan in combat and then untap, play Teferi, and bounce the next threat, or bounce the orb, or some such.
Okay, well, for Steven's perspective, I mean, this doesn't seem great, but it's so much better than last game.
It is definitely better than last game.
You have to have some optimism here.
Yeah.
If you're in his seat. And
being on the play is just...
yeah.
It is the best.
And you have to assume that this Ragavan's going to get in again since it's already gotten in twice. We know that's not true.
Yeah. Ooh, we're fetching. Does this mean that Harrison has maybe a copy of Endurance to block? Because that would be devastating. Dykman does have an Unholy Heat, but I think he only has artifacts in his graveyard right now. Mm-hmm. And so if we have to trade the Unholy Heat and the Ragavan for the Endurance, that is just awful.
If that's the case, do you make the trade or you just let the Ragavan die?
I suppose it depends on the rest of your hand.
Right.
Although, if I had to guess, I would say that we're probably going to have to use the burn spell to finish off the Endurance because we're not going to have a better shot at killing a 3/4. Mm-hmm. Although we might, if we think that next turn we'll have Delirium and we have other uses for our mana this turn, then it would be reasonable. But there is a copy of Endurance to ambush in combat. Pretty great play here by Harrison. And now his hand is, I believe, Teferi, Bolt, a land, and something else, which is definitely a strong hand. And if he can line up like Teferi plus, untap with it, and then we can minus on the Torpor Orb and play Yorion in the same turn, that's a potential line that could really put it away, although that's, 4 or 5 turns down the line or something.
Mm-hmm. Dykman giving this some thought here, trying to determine what he may want to do in advance of blocking, as this Endurance is definitely going to be getting in the way.
Yeah, I have to imagine that we'll be doing some blocking.
There's no good way out of this for Steven. It's just what's the least bad. Okay, it's going to be double removal spell on the Endurance, so then the Ragavan lives. All right. That's going to connect. Damage comes across, new treasure, and
Lightning Bolt. All right, so if we want it, that's 3 damage upstairs, and I believe that's going to put Harrison down to 8. He is certainly in range. An Underworld Breach off the top could definitely do some work here.
That wasn't bad, all things considered. With that Flash Endurance coming in during combat, that went.
Yeah, that was not
better than it looked like it would.
Yeah, I thought that was going to play out much worse than that. Although it's probably on the whole a good exchange for Harrison, but. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely could have played out much, much worse for Dykman there. And Dykman still has a few cards left over, so definitely would not be surprised to see him get this one. Although we are fetching here with 4 mana, and you're obviously always terrified when your 4-color opponent is fetching on turn 4. They're going to play their marquee card in Omnath, Locus of Creation.
Yeah, that is an issue. And with 2 Unholy Heats gone, it's not going to be very easy for Dykman to kill this without card disadvantage, but it's only 3 mana, so maybe it's Teferi coming down.
Okay, yeah, no Omnath. Looks like we just want to leave the Utopia land untapped, potentially bolt the Ragavan we know about, put the Torpor back in hand. Dykman is down to 13 off of those Sunbaked Canyons. Harrison, not much in the way of pressure in his 4-color control deck, but certainly could mean that Harrison's able to turn the corner a little faster when he does manage to stabilize, if he does manage to stabilize.
So you're suggesting then that Harrison would be advised to bolt Steven to try and finish him off?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. End of turn, bolt you down to 10. Yeah, I'm surely that would work out, right? Nothing could possibly go wrong from that position.
All right, here's Ragavan again. This is going to attack and find a lightning bolt.
Yep, Ragavan met with a lightning bolt, as they often are.
But it did get through 4 times. Found a lightning bolt of its own, and another Sunbaked Canyon.
Wow. Sunbaked Canyon number 3.
Bolting Dykman was completely on the table here.
I am not sure I agree with that, but
Will Kruger does not play for the win. That's the information that we've learned this round.
confirmed, yeah. And
So Steven deciding on replaying the Torpor Orb or not.
yeah, he'd go down to 10 to do it, but yeah, I mean Harrison has no creatures in play, and by the time he's able to comfortably attack, he's probably got the game won anyway. So I wouldn't be too concerned, although it definitely could be relevant.
I guess the other option, one other option is just cantrip one of the lands. Instead, it's going to be a bolt.
Down to 4. That Dykman is playing for the win here for sure. This is how he wins the game. He knows he's not going to win by sending damage at Teferi, and he enables to light up the stage, hits another Ragavan and a Mountain, down to 1 card in hand, plus the 2 have to light up the stage. Harrison had a crucial 4 life, not dead to another Bolt, not dead to 1 Ragavan hit. So let's see, he's got a Bolt in hand off the top here, so he can take care of the Ragavan. And he knows that Dykman isn't going to be able to do anything on his turn to interrupt him because there is a Teferi in play, preventing any instant speed shenaniganry. I'll let Dykman tap out anyway. Abundant Growth. Yeah, I mean, Harrison is going to need to find an Omnath or an Eladamri's Call or some way to gain some life just to put himself out of range, and that's how he would really stabilize this game.
Yeah, I mean, given time, Dykman now with a couple mountains and 3 Sunbaked Canyons on the board does have draws to fresh cards. It's just not going to happen immediately.
Yeah, Sunbaked is not all downside. I mean, if he has enough time to draw 4 or 5 more cards, then it's very conceivable that he could piece together 4 points of damage. I mean, he plays Lava Dart and Lightning Bolt. It's very easy to imagine.
All right, Steam Vents tapped there for Harrison, staying at 4 life. Dykman may have drawn an Arid Mesa there.
Yeah, definitely not what you're looking for here. You're looking for like burn spells to piece together and basically take Harrison's life to 0.
Okay. Orb, Arid Mesa plus Ragavan. That's has to be played this turn.
Yeah, I assume we'll see the Ragavan dashed here, and we are going to pray that it survives, although we know, we here in the booth and you here at home know that Harrison is ready with a Lightning Bolt and almost certainly will not be taking a hit off the Ragavan. Yeah, these Sunbaked Canyons, they can definitely give Dykman a few more looks just to piece together lethal burn.
Yep. And I think we've gotten to the point where, okay, Torpor Orb, yeah, could be played here, or do you just save the mana for Sunbaked Canyon? I think that might be the way to go.
Yeah, I think I would be pretty tempted to cycle Sunbaked Canyon here. The window is closing for you to actually win the game. Torpor Orb is, I mean, what are you doing? Shutting down Omnath, drawing a card? If he draws Omnath, you lose anyway. Dykman disagrees. He's going to go for the Torpor Orb, down to 8 life to cast it off of the Sunbakes.
There is a Boseiju in Harrison's hand. If that gets unloaded on the Torpor Orb, that's not actually a bad development for Steven.
No, yeah, because now we get another land, so we get to crack the Sunbaked Canyon here. And then we're going to untap, draw a card, and then we're going to crack the other Sunbaked to have a decent amount of mana to work with, and a few new cards. There's an iteration that's 3 looks at Omnath, although I can't tell if he has enough mana to play iteration, play Omnath, and then play a land afterwards. I think he only has 5 lands in play.
I think that's correct. I think you're right. I think there's 5.
Abundant Growths are confusing thing. The Abundant Growths, all the foils, they make it a little bit tricky.
Oh, pick up
just drawing Yorion.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Fairly passive, because even casting Yorion is just going to lead to Harrison tapping most of his mana and then drawing some cards, but not doing anything to the board. Steven probably wanting to cash in the first Sunbaked Canyon here at the end step.
Yeah, we could see an end of turn iteration. The rarely seen end of turn iteration, although I don't know exactly what's in Harrison's hand, but although the Yorion drawing 2 cards here is good, but I would be pretty tempted to look for a way to gain life like right now, because that is I am feeling the heat. I'm feeling like I am in danger if I'm Harrison. I'm not sitting on a counterspell here.
Is it possible that the Boseiju could hit a Sunbaked Canyon instead of the Torpor Orb there to deny a draw?
That is certainly possible. Oh man, that does cut off any outs to your 1 copy of Night of Autumn. And then if the game goes a little longer than that, then things get a little problematic. All right, and we're going to see Dykman fetching to Finn here. He knows what his outs are. He wants to take him out of his deck. Does not want to draw that.
And he's got to feel like, I mean, unlike the last game where it's just, I mean, there are outs here. Like there's by no means is this game one for Harrison. Steven, I don't know. I don't think I'd even be comfortable saying one player's ahead or not here. And if it was, I might say Steven was.
Yeah, I think Steven's a little ahead here. If Harrison draws Omnath or Eladamri's Call, it all gets kind of broken up. But
Yeah.
I mean, with Harrison at such a low life total, the top of Steven's deck is very, very live here.
Mm-hmm. All right, so there is one Sun
catching
Canyon.
in the canyon. We're finally getting a use out of all this life that we paid. I think I saw a Swift Spear there, so even just one burn spell can piece together lethal if Harrison isn't ready with any defense.
Okay. So I think there's a Soul Scar Mage. Maybe there's a Swift Spear also. There is a Soul Scar Mage. I believe there's a Lava Dart. So that's not enough yet.
No, not quite, but we're getting close. Okay, so not a Swift Spear. That would have been. Oh wow. Okay, so there is a Swift Spear there.
Wow.
Maybe we should not have played the Soul Scar Mage because the Lava Dart would have allowed us. Oh, but I think Harrison's sitting on an ending, which you could play at instant speed. Although once again, I honestly cannot tell because these foils are. Okay, so there is an ending, so that yeah.
Okay, so Swift Spear goes down, but there is a lethal attack available for Steven next turn. Teferi, I mean, maybe that was a Triome drawn for Harrison. Teferi, does it bounce a Soul Scar Mage here? I mean, if Harrison has nothing, he is currently dead.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a 4/5 to block.
Oh right, there's a Yorion. I forgot about the Yorion.
That is known to both players here.
And actually, there's a Yorion that's going to draw a bunch of cards. So yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to draw here. We're going to see if the top part of our deck is Omnath, because if it is, the game is over. Cannot tell what he drew. We've got Iteration. We've got Yorion. We've got a Triome. And who knows?
All right, well, it's going to be Yorion. Tapping,
all right.
leaving 1 mana.
Yep, we're going to, it might be 2 mana. And we're going to blink out the Abundant Growths, put them on the same lands. All 3 Abundant Growths. I saw an Iteration, a Wrenn, and something else. Dykman sitting on a Lava Dart.
Okay, Harrison falls to 3. Lava Dart
man.
flashback down to 2. Lava Dart.
2 Lava Darts for
Lava
the win?
Dart?
No way to gain life? Wow, okay.
Steven Dykman.
Steven Dykman barely stabilizes.
His quarterfinal match.
Wow.
Woo.
That was a really, really impressive game there by Steven Dykman. Played super well. Just barely pieced together exactly lethal before Harrison was able to find an Omnath or Knight of Autumn or some way to actually just get himself out of range there. Was unsuccessful in doing that. And so we're going to see Steven Dykman advancing to the top 4 to play against, I believe, Will Kowalczyk.
There, and Harrison Kanfer saying, yeah, let me show you my outs. It was the whole deck.
Yeah, I mean, really everything was good there. Yeah.
Okay, well, Steven Dykman will get through in a nail biter.
That was an awesome game. Those are the games you love to win as a red
take
mage.
A breath. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back with the semifinals of the Nerd Rage 5K here in St. Paul, Minnesota. Thanks for being with us. We'll be back in a minute.